Alright, I'm making this video to show how to spice up your hi-hats a little. Um, Hold on one second. I need to put the. There we go. So, first off, this is trap drums. This is kind of for trap drums. Boom bap and other hip hop drums are kind of different. First off, say good trick for hi-hats is this is a really good sample, so it doesn't have much bass in it, which is good for trap hi-hats. You just want it to be the transient, the snap, the sizzle. Shout out to 808 Mafia. So hold on, I'm gonna mute it. It's just straight eighth notes right now. Off the bat, the hi hat is already panned to the left a little, because it's not my sample. Um, it's usually a good idea to pan your hi hats. So I'm not gonna pan them because it's already panned. And one thing I do a lot, at least in Maschine, when you're dealing with audio samples, is a little different. When the tight under pitch envelope is on one shot, it's going to play the whole sample, even when the next sample triggers. So to stop that, you just go to ADSR. You can do it with attack, hold, and delay, or attack, hold, and decay, but I don't like it as much. So you just change that to ADSR. So that way, it only triggers as much of the sample as the as I have out here, so it'll make it a little cleaner. Alright, it's boring. It's just eighth notes. It's a good way to start a verse, but if you want to spice them up a little, most people already know this, but rolls. So to do a roll, the grid's on 16th notes right now. I'm going to change it to 64th notes. The pen tool helps. It makes it a little quicker. I just want to take this and do 4. There's no rules to this, but the more you do, you'll get a feel of what you can do. So now you hear that all the time in trap. It's a necessity almost. Alright, so we bring up the piano roll. And so you can do straight rolls, just static on the same pitch. Or if you want to get fancy, you can either do down, you just so right there, same note. Alright, cool. So now it's going to go down in pitch. Hear that a lot on Southside 808 Mafia. And pretty much every producer, Nick Mira, all those guys. So now I'm going to put the hat back on, or the snare. You don't want to go too crazy with the rolls. Don't do it every fucking downbeat. It's just gonna be a mess. Yeah. So this pattern's a little bit too long. I'm gonna make it 4 bars. You can do this, by the way, this is applicable in any DAW. I just have Maschine. I'm about to get FL Studio because it's a little bit easier to track out beats in FL Studio because you can work with audio clips in like the session view as opposed to like dealing with just patterns. It's cool, but it's kind of a pain in the ass. Makes a little mindless copy paste. Alright, so I'm just gonna highlight everything but another good trick is to make a hi-hat pattern in like, or drum pattern in general, in like 1 or 2 bars. Then highlight it. And duplicate it. Cool. Duplicate it and then add little unique qualities to each 4 bars. That way the sample doesn't stay old, but it still stays repetitive and catchy, which is a great arrangement trick. So now it's duplicated. Cool. It's pretty bouncy. I really like that downwards roll, but I think is missing something. So what I'm gonna do, I don't remember what video it was, but I remember hearing, oh, what's his name? Oh man, Little Baby's producer. I'll remember it later. What is it? He was saying that he puts phasers on all of his hi-hats. And ever since I heard that, or at least trap hi-hats, I've been doing that. So with the mix knob at 50, it's going to be kind of obnoxious. That's cool. Depending on the beat, it's not bad, but to make it a little bit more sneaky, we're going to bring the mix knob down so it's more the dry signal. And just a little bit, especially on those rolls, it kind of adds a little spice and really just kind of gives a little bit more bounce and gel in the mix more. So I'm gonna add the kick. Ooh man, that's a bouncy ass drum pad. That's only three patterns. So now we're going to do some rolls with triplets. Oh, another good thing is if wherever your snare is hitting, it's not necessary, but just delete the hi-hat whenever the snare hits, because it doesn't really add anything. It doesn't really make it hit harder. It kind of just muddies up the beat. So in this case, the snare hits on the 3 every time. So I'm just going to delete the hat on all the third beat of each bar. So now, and it's kind of, you don't really notice it, but it kind of actually gives the hi-hats even more bounce when you add rests in there. So we're going to add some triplet rolls. So if you don't know what a triplet is basically what it is instead of having, if you have a quarter note, instead of 1 note per beat, it's 3 notes per beat. So a good way to count it is triplet instead of 1 and 2. So it has that's what gives a lot of beats swing. Alright, cool. We're gonna add 1. See how that sounds. Da 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 da. 4. I'm gonna give it a rest right there. Cool. Kind of loud. Actually gonna make it in 4s. Nah. That's not perfect, but it's just to show you your options. By the way, I'm definitely not the best drum programmer. I'm just showing what I know. There's definitely people who can make way catchier hi-hat patterns. I'm not one of those people, but I try my best. I like this because you can barely hear it. It just adds a little bit of spice to the hi-hats. Alright. Now I'm going to add... You can definitely learn how to manipulate the grid. So what I mean by that is try out different like grid denominations. If you're at high tempos, if you try to do 1/28 notes, it's not even going to sound like a roll. It's just going to sound like a solid note that's going to clip. So the higher the denomination is, the more notes are going to be packed into a single beat, and the less noticeable it's going to be. When you're at like 1/4, like basically a 120 and above, anything above the 64th note and sometimes even 64th notes, if you start getting to higher tempos, are just going to not really sound like rolls. It's going to sound like a solid note. But just mess around with the different note values, like changing the grid up, for example. So like a 1/28th note, if there's 4 subdivisions of a quarter note in a 16th note, a 1/28th note is going to be 16 subdivisions in one. Yeah, like it's insane. So that's a little bit crazy. I mean, you can do it, but it doesn't really sound that good. Same thing with like, you see, when I change it to triplets, the grid to triplets is different. The note values are different, so just play around with that.